today I want to compare Fiverr blogs versus the AI blog printer. So let's go ahead and look at it. Fiverr is a place where you can pay as little as $5. When you add tax and you add some sort of service fee, comes out to really like $7 at minimum, and all the way up to hundreds, if not a couple thousands of dollars, to hire somebody to do work for you. And I remember a time where it was like, I think it was like 2020, 2019, maybe even 2017, where Fiverr was going crazy. And it actually caught a lot of steam back when Gary Vee did an interview with the CEO of Fiverr. Well, the CEO of Fiverr came out recently and talked about how bad things have been going on with the actual business behind Fiverr. And he's basically trying to motivate Fiverr sellers to learn AI so that they can offer AI services, because AI has completely taken over the, I guess you could say, freelancing marketplace. And for those who have been watching my content for a long time, you know that I've been totally against freelancing. If you're watching me now and you ever heard me talk about freelancing, I've always talked about it is not a viable business plan. And freelancers are getting absolutely murdered, and they're getting crushed in this industry. But whether it's freelancing or having an agency, they're both pretty similar. But in the world of content writing, there's nobody who's getting crushed more. There are some businesses right now that are completely wiped out, like image generation. I mean, you really don't need to hire an artist anymore. You could just go on Midjourney or whatever other software. But content writing is a big one. And I personally have let go all of my current writers for all of my websites. Firstly, I sold most of my websites, or essentially all of my websites. I'm creating new ones now, but I'm not actually using employees. I'm not hiring people from Fiverr. I'm not hiring people from Upwork or even freelancers from other overseas countries like the Philippines. What I'm actually doing is I'm using AI. And this is some blogs. I'll just go ahead and we'll compare one. Like today, I wrote this blog, which I didn't actually write it. The AI wrote it for me. And it wrote it in, markdown format, SEO-based content. And it created a lot of content. I mean, we could just do a test publish right now to my website. Let me go ahead and select the right one here. Okay, there it is. And this is the entire content, which is a lot of words. I mean, let's go ahead and scroll here and copy this entire thing. And let's copy it. Let's see how many words it is. Let's go to word counter. Okay. And this is, once again, one website here as like a little test. It's 2,149 words. And the total cost for this article, and let's just make sure the title is called what is YT Studio Pro and why every serious YouTuber needs it. Let's go over here to my transactions, and we can see here it cost me $1.78. This was just a test article, nothing too crazy, but this is exactly what it cost me, $1.78 for this article. So effectively, 7 times cheaper, or very close to 7 times cheaper than what it would normally cost me to write a $5 article. Now, if I had somebody actually write this article for me, let's see how much it cost on Fiverr. So here we have, I will write your niche cannabis hemp article. I will write an SEO mental health article. Let's click on this. Why not? Let's see how long these articles are. So this is a $75 article for 500 words. Okay. So if I was to hire this person, my article cost $2,100. It would cost, more than $225, because this $225 one costs $1,500. So if we add up $225 plus $75, we're looking at well over $350 when you do the numbers for my article of the cost. Now, the only reason why people would hire a writer like this is for one reason and one reason only, and that's context. Now, yes, they want to, outsource and things like that, but context is the thing that matters. And that's exactly what I inputted into our AI blog printer. So with our AI blog printer, for those who don't know, and I click on website data here, I can add different websites that I'm effectively training. And these websites that I'm training, I train it based on SEO practices, right? In terms of like keywords and optimization, things like that, which is just search engine optimization. But the second form of context is the context that I want to input in terms of intellectual context. So information that I want it to essentially use, right? And I have multiple files here. I'm not going to click on it. Like I said, if I click on this, it will show all my files that I'm actually training my AI on. But whenever I go over here to my writer, okay, and I ask it to write an article for me, what happens is it takes information from the context, right, from that data, and then creates a table of contents, and then also creates an article based on that. And of course, I can select how long I want the article to be. I can select, some different settings, like do I want my focus keyword in the first paragraph? Do I want, for example, a FAQ section, a table of contents section? Do I want these kind of things? Do I want to include screenshots? All these kind of settings. However, right, the context is the most important part. So that's the reason why people hire writers like this. Of course they want to outsource. Everybody knows that, right? Because they're either not willing to do the work themselves, or they have the capital to just hire out. I'm speaking from a perspective where I used to hire writers for well over 6 years. I didn't hire writers my first year, and I let them go while I was selling my websites. So when you really cut things down, we'll say a good full 6 years of hiring writers. And it's not just hiring them. You have to train them. You have to give them that context. But here's the thing. Human beings are fallible. They make mistakes. And AI really doesn't if you just make it follow and you give it the context. Somebody wrote something interesting on Twitter. They put out a post where they said AI is, basically garbage if you just ask it to write anything that is super specific, like an expert in a certain field. Well, that might particularly be true because you're not providing it specific context. If you're providing it specific context, then it knows what form to navigate certain ideas from or create certain ideas from. But if you don't give it context, well, then it's just pulling information from the air, which is essentially all the information on the internet. And on the internet, there's mixed data, mixed information. Now, this, I think, is a wildly unfair example because I think it might just cost too much money. But let's go ahead and see other writers. Like this writer looks a little bit cheaper. Let's click on this writer. It says $15 plus fees. I'll write up to 1,500 words with original content, top quality, and absolutely no use of plagiarism. And so is it writing or is it editing? Because it says here, I will edit your writings, proofread articles. So I guess this person is a proofreader. So this is not actually writing. Do we have a section about writing here? Okay, we don't. So maybe if I click on this person's account, where can I find their account? I don't use Fiverr, so this is, just bear with me. Okay, here's their account. They have 8 services so far. Book indexing, ebook conversions, thesis, dissertation. Okay, so let's go to actual writing. We don't need any kind of editing. We need an actual writer. I'll turn your blog post, text, or article into a video. Nope, we don't need that. I'll publish an article. Nope. What if I write article writer? What if I write writer? Let's see what happens here. Okay, so I'll write engaging SEO articles for your brand. This looks good. Let's see how much this person cost. So $45 plus fees for 500 words. That is quite pricey, like I said. So our article is 2,100 words, roughly. So that would be 4 times this, plus 10%. So, still well over $200. This is 1,000 words for $80. So in that case, it would be like almost $200. And then we have 2,000 words for $145 plus fee. So it really doesn't matter how you slice it or how you dice it. You're paying hundreds of dollars. And for my article, I paid once again $1 and some cents, maybe like 70 cents. So what are some of the things that I trained my AI on? Let's kind of talk about this. So for those who don't know, I have a software called YT Studio Pro. I created this software, and it was the very first software that I did create. And this software right here is YT Studio Pro. And basically what it does is it helps you do deep research on any niche on YouTube. You can see your competitors, you can see what videos they're making, you can even see how much watch time they're getting per video, how much engagement. You could see all these kind of things that aren't public data on YouTube, okay? And when I created this software, I wanted to create a software that I could actually use, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but somewhere along the earlier portion of this year, I said I wanted to kind of restructure what I was doing, how I'm working, because I don't want to rely on my blogs forever. And, I sold them. I knew what I was talking about back in the day. But now that I've sold pretty much every money-making website that I have, in terms of blogs, I want to create more. But I realized that YouTube, or video content in general, is such a powerful force, I guess you could say, in the world today. So my thing is, if I make some videos with articles, I can create a perfect storm. And that's why I created this software. So I'm not telling you to go buy it or anything. I'm just simply sharing what it is and why I created it. So now that you guys know that, this article is written with the context that I taught. So for example, that I taught the AI. So for example, this section here, it says the traditional approach. So what is the traditional approach? In reference to making YouTube videos. And you could see here, the first part is idea generation, keyword and topic research, content generation, basic SEO, thumbnail design, publishing promotion, and post analysis. This is exactly the type of stuff that I trained it on. So who am I speaking to? I'm speaking to people in my article who are people who either want to be YouTubers, struggling YouTubers, people who are trying to become YouTubers. And throughout the article, I have different links where my software is hyperlinked. So people can read through my article and click on my software and they can access it. Now, if you notice here, we have the sections that say object. Well, this is going to be a feature that we're adding into the software where we can add screenshots and videos directly into the article. So in this case, right, where we're talking about YT Studio Pro, it'd probably be a good idea to actually have a screenshot of YT Studio Pro here. That's why it says object. So the AI knows, hey, it's a good idea to have an image here. Now, I didn't want some just like AI generated image here. I wanted something that makes sense for my brand or for my business. Now, maybe sometimes in certain scenarios based on the niche that it would absolutely make sense to have like an AI generated image here. But for me, I wanted something a little bit more specific, like I said, because it just makes sense. I'm selling a software. It's not like I'm selling some sort of dating coach or dating course or anything like that, something generalized. It's very specific. So I'm looking around here, right? And I'm talking about, here it's talking about spotting thumbnail outliers. Now, once again, I didn't write this. This is the AI that wrote this, but it consumed all the data from my training. Okay, so here it's talking about the visual hook. It's talking about how to identify visually striking thumbnails. So you can do all this within our thumbnail outlier tool. It's a tool that basically compares different thumbnails, and notice it mentions it right here. Okay, and maybe I have some more training to do, but this is very, very impressive because once again, it's writing with the context that I provided. Look what it says here. It says top 500 videos for a specific keyword. My software allows you to search the top 500 videos for any searchable keyword, any niche. And it understood that. And that's why it wrote here in bold. And it talks about the different features within YT Studio Pro. So if you look here, it says, number one, deep dive research. Basically, it's part of your workflow to be a YouTuber. And then it talks about competitor intelligence. You're no longer guessing. YT Studio Pro allows you to analyze your competitors' videos to understand their average watch time, identify their best performing content, and even spot thumbnail outliers. So imagine somebody's reading this and they're hearing that YT Studio Pro, the software, allows you to analyze competitor videos and find thumbnail outliers, for example. If they go and buy the software when they click on that link, right, and they access the software, they're going to look for a tool that says thumbnail outliers. And inside, they'll be able to navigate and access that very tool. Okay, so that is essentially why this is so amazing, right? And they could look at the landing page and they could see all these different tools that's built inside. They could, it's going to connect. It makes sense. But what doesn't make sense if I just ask an AI to just sit here and just write for me about YouTube. That's how most people fail, because what is it doing? It's just grabbing some information from the internet that's created, and then it's basically just taking it and regurgitating it. So it's not adding anything special to it. And the fact that we can add this context to it makes all the difference in terms of success and failure on having a blog. Because the main purpose, aside from getting traffic, aside from making money, aside from doing all that on creating a blog, is to provide information, education, right? And I talked about this with the guys in my members area, everybody in my members area with the content creation campus. We talked about this. The purpose of the blog is to provide context, because the superpower is video plus blog to create sales. In my case, right, what are we doing? We're not going to be able to give all the information through video. People need additional training, which is why, for those who don't know, when I sell different, guides or courses on a certain aspect, part of the reason why I'm able to sell the course and people actually gravitate towards it is because they just need more information. The videos on YouTube are just not enough. So creating the formula between video and article, combining together to sell a product. For example, let's say I'm selling a product called the Ninja Creamy. Shout out to the Ninja Creamy, by the way, because it's really awesome. You can make your own ice cream. And I make these like healthy ice creams. Well, technically, I don't do it. I'd be lying if I said I do it. But my dad does it. And he creates these like healthy protein milk type ice creams. And basically, right, if I was to create an article on that, I could create a video sharing with people like what ingredients and all that, but I might have to create an article to give people additional information on whatever it is that I'm doing. Now, I don't recommend, for all my guys in the members area, I don't recommend that we do that niche because, I don't want to go over reasons why, but, there are very specific criteria as to what niches to go after. And we talked about that. Literally, we have a whole training on that, but I just don't want to confuse my members. But for the general YouTube people, do what you want, but we have a set system, and I don't want people to get confused. So I just wanted to put that out there. But overall, I'd give this thing an 8 out of 10 in terms of the article writing. And I've spoken about this in my members area. And I'll just share it here real quick. If I write, let's just say 10 out of 10 articles every single time, and it succeeds and it makes me a whole bunch of money. Well, what if I'm 75% successful, but I don't have to do the actual work, and I have AI doing everything for me? I'd be happy with that trade-off. I get to save 100% of my time, or 95%, because I have to train the AI, and then be 75% successful, as opposed to 100%. That's a fair trade for me. So I figured I'd put this video out there just to kind of compare, and this is the real reason, effectively, why and I hate to say this, but I'm not trying to sound mean, but fired all my writers, fire all my employees, because AI is absolutely taking over. And trust me, I don't want it that way. I preferred the old world that we used to live in, where things were just much more simple. But we don't live in those times, and there's nothing you could do. It's either you adapt or you just get burnt. There's nothing else in between. So, hopefully this video helps. Once again, it's not about being harsh or being critical or being evil. It's about adapting. It's about becoming better. And there's nothing adapting about this. I feel bad for these kind of people who offer these kind of orders or products and rely on this, because this is definitely not the future. I'll talk to you guys later. I wish you guys the best. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, talk to me. Leave them in the comments down below, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Bye.